So we're going to take a look at a quadratic equation from the 2017 Junior Cert Higher Level Paper 1. So it's question 9a, and we've been given this quadratic equation, x squared minus 2x minus 4 equals 0. Now ideally what we'd like to do, the shortest method to solve a quadratic equation is to open up two sets of brackets and factorize this quadratic expression. When we have it factorized, we can let each bracket equal 0, and then we can solve for the two values normally of x. In this question, we know that that's probably not going to work because they say to give our answers in the form a plus or minus root b. And so this is kind of a hint to us that this is going to be using the minus b formula, or the quadratic formula from our maths table. So let's write down that quadratic formula. So if we want the solutions to a quadratic equation, the quadratic formula, or the minus b formula, says that x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. And so what we need to do is we need to find the values a, b, and c so that we can sub them into this formula. So if we come back over to our quadratic equation, the a value will be the coefficient of x squared, the number in front of x squared. Now we don't see a number in front of the x squared, so that means it's a 1x squared, and so a is equal to the number 1. B is going to be the coefficient of the x term, so the number in front of the x, so that's minus 2, and the minus is very important when we're subbing this in. And then finally the c value is the term that's independent of x, that has no x on it, so that's the minus 4. So we just have to be careful when we sub them in that we pay close attention to the signs and that we use brackets when we're subbing them in. So x is equal to minus b. Well, b is minus 2, so it's going to be minus 2 plus or minus the square root of, again, b is minus 2, so it's minus 2 squared. And very important here to put that in a bracket. If you leave it as minus 2 squared, your calculator incorrectly tells you that that's minus 4. So just be careful, we have to square the minus 2. Minus 4 by a, which is 1, by c, which is minus 4. And that's all over 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. So working down further, we get x is equal to minus 2 is plus 2, plus or minus the square root of minus 2 squared is 4, and then minus 4 by 1 by minus 4 is plus 16, and that's all over 2. And then we'll tidy it up one further stage to give us 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 and 16 is 20 over 2. Now ordinarily in this kind of sum we would now split it into two solutions, and just to get the calculator to see what these decimal solutions would look like, and then go and answer it the way that they wanted to, which was in the form a plus or minus root b. So if I take out the calculator and I'm going to put in the fraction button, and I'm going to put in 2 plus root 20 first of all, divided by 2, press equals, and then the SD button, and I get 3.24 if we round it off to 2 decimal places. So one of the solutions is 3.24. The other solution then, if we bring back up the calculator, we can find by changing the plus to a minus, and again we press SD and we get minus 1.24. Minus 1.24. And so these are our two values of x. These are the solutions to this quadratic equation. If we were to sub in these two values into the equation, they should satisfy the equation, which means that we should get 0 on the left hand side to equal the 0 on the right hand side. They do ask us, however, in this question not to give decimal answers. They ask us to leave it in the form a plus or minus root b. And we can see when I use the calculator, we got a sneak preview of what those answers would be before I pressed SD on the calculator. But how might we do it without using the calculator? Well, the first thing to do is to change the root 20 using the rule of surds. So one of the rules of surds says that we can change root 20 into the product of two surds where the numbers in the surds multiply to give 20. So that could be 10 and 2, or it could be 5 and 4, or it could be 20 and 1. But we want to pick a number that we'll be able to simplify down. So I'm going to pick root 4 by root 5. So root 20 is equal to root 4 by root 5. And the root of 4, remember, is just the number 2. And so that's equal to 2 root 5. And so on the next line, I can say that x is equal to 2 plus or minus 2 root 5 divided by 2. And again, we could split it up into the two separate solutions, the plus version and the minus version here, but the question asks us to leave the plus and minus together like this. So the final step then is just to notice that 2 divides evenly into both of the terms in the numerator on top of the fraction. 2 into 2 divides one time, and then plus or minus 2 into 2 root 5 gives us 1 root 5. And you may have noticed on the calculator that when we put in this line here in the calculator, it did give us 1 plus root 5 as a solution, and when we change it to the minus, it gave us 1 minus root 5 as the solution. And then remember, the SD turned those two into decimals. So this is a nice, neat version of the answer without any decimal places and with the greatest amount of accuracy. If we wanted to turn that into decimals, we'd split it up into 1 and 2 separate solutions and press the SD on the calculator for that. Okay.